Teamster strike at United Parcel Service. What do you think about these guys out there fighting about part-time jobs?
It's a big pain in the ass. I gotta go around. I got a carload. I'm emptying out of parcels right now. It's really creating a lot of fun.
Well, it is a bit of an inconvenience. But what do you think about the issue? Do you think this is important?
As I understand it, I think the UPS, some of the workers, I mean, if they've been on temporary as long as they've been indicated, I think it's been overdue. But granted, you can't have them all on because you know you do have fluctuations business, and you do need temporaries, but you don't need that many temporaries.
Right. Would it surprise you to know that about 10% of the part-time workers work more than 40 hours a week?
No, but at that point, they should be termed as permanent.
You would think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. You'd figure there should be a law about that.
Hi, I'm Mike Cavanaugh. This is another edition of Cavanaugh's Corner, the labor talk show here in southern Maine on public access television. I'm here at the Teamsters Hall in South Portland today. This is Monday, the 11th of August, and I'm sitting here with Bob Piccone, who's the president and business agent for Local 340, the Teamsters Local in Maine. Bob, welcome to Cavanaugh's Corner.
Mike, glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. Well, as you might imagine, we're here in the beginning of the second week of the most important and largest labor strike in the United States in the last 25 years. And Bob, you're right in the middle of it. Yeah, you're afraid so. But it's something certainly that has big implications for not just your union, but for lots of workers in this country. And I think it's probably for our viewers, it would be a real good idea to sort of give them a little bit of background, and particularly in terms of your own case. You were a former UPS worker yourself, is that right?
Right, I started with UPS in 1960 when they opened up in Maine. And they had at that time 4 employees in Maine, of which I was one. And then it became 7 very soon right after that, and we've grown ever since.
Okay.
So there was, and on the part-time issue, there was for many, many years no part-timers in our collective bargaining agreement.
So you were like an original UPS worker here in Maine, and you worked for the company how many years before you went to work for the union?
I worked for 22 years. I was always an officer of the union for many years, and then I became the principal officer in 1982.
Okay. All right. So you've been, you know the UPS story intimately, right?
I know UPS.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I guess so. And they know you. You've been part of the union's, the Teamsters Negotiating Committee in the national negotiations here, is that right?
Yes, I'm on the National Negotiating Committee, and I'm the chairman for the New England Supplement. The contract has a national portion, and then they have a supplemental portion. There's 16 local unions in New England that have a supplemental contract, and I'm chairman of that. We have met concurrently with the National Committee from time to time. Our committee has met when the National Committee was not meeting and when it was meeting. And the last weeks we met together in Washington, D.C. All the supplements were there from all over the country as well as the National. So when we weren't meeting with the National, we meet with the supplemental committees as well. And we don't have our supplement settled either. Our supplement is in the same position that the National is that we were given a last and final offer on our supplement that same day.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit then about the issues that led to this strike, because, as I said, this is you know, for many people in Maine and around the country, this is the biggest labor strike that they've probably ever seen, and it's affecting 180-some thousand of your members, and you know, many people in the country obviously are feeling some effect. They have some relationship to UPS, and there's been a fair amount of press coverage about this, but it's a little bit confused certainly to people as to what is this all about. Why are the Teamsters on strike? Why is this such an important issue for you guys? And then we want to talk about why is this an important issue for other workers. But could you just tell us for a couple of minutes, why is this such an important issue that you've got all those workers out here on strike?
Well, the company started growing part-time employees back in the 60s and 70s. And originally there were just part-time employees that were there to work, to go to school. When they completed school, they would go on their way. That changed through some court case that took place sometime out in California, and from that moment on, the number of part-time employees just increased and increased and increased, to the point where they're now from a company who had no part-time employees to where the majority of the employees at United Postal Service are part-time. Some time back, there was an Article 40 negotiated, which was the air agreement, where the part-time people could deliver air packages. The numbers in that division grew beyond all the boundaries. The part-time employees that work for UPS come into work with a starting rate of $8, which has been in effect since the 1980s. And in this current proposal by the company, that starting rate still is in effect. They start at $8, and then after they get what's called skilled, they go to $9, and then there's progression rates through that. But that hasn't changed either. And so rather than the number of part-times going down, the number increases. Where the company was to have put part-time people to work as full-time, they didn't keep their promise. 4 years ago, there was an agreement that they would put 500 part-time employees to full-time jobs. They, in fact, ended up with 239 people that they could actually claim that they put in. They tried to prove to us that they put 500 people in, but it turned out that some of these people were just ADA situations that had been accommodations agreed to, and they didn't live up to that agreement. So the union took the position that we were going to change that. We were going to change that through this agreement, among other things, but on the part-time issue, we were going to expand the number of full-time jobs.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute, because there has been a fair amount of attention paid to this thing, and I think that a lot of people, frankly, can relate to the issue of part-time employment, because many workers in this economy do wind up by choice, or many times not by choice, working part-time, temporary type hours. They're very flexible from the point of view of business. But in the case of UPS, this has grown from, when you started at UPS, 0 part-timers to now over 60% of the UPS employees are part-timers.
Yes.
And they're all, the wage rates, I saw this in the Wall Street Journal last week, wage rates of $8 and $9 an hour haven't changed at all since the mid-1980s. Is that right?
That's right.
So it's not hard to see why UPS might choose to put more people into part-time if they can freeze their wages at that kind of level.
But what they did was they also were, during some of the information requests that the union made throughout the negotiations, the union asked the company over and over and over to show us how many people worked, how many part-time employees worked in excess of 35 hours was the number that we chose. They delayed that and delayed that, as they did throughout this entire negotiations. And now it's obvious, we can see why the delay was there, because this last and final offer became on the table, and with some strategy to get it voted, and we'll talk about that later. But it became obvious why they had delayed in giving us this information. The information they produced was that there were 13,000 part-time employees in the United States who worked in excess of 35 hours. So it was an easy number for the union to say, well, here's 13,000 people we can readily identify.
Sure.
You work in these people in conjunction with, say, they would maybe work one shift, or in conjunction with another shift, with maybe 1 hour break between shifts. So here you'd have somebody going into work from, say, 4 till 8, and then there would be no work for them between 8 and 9, and they would work another shift, where they would go out and do another job. There were 13,000 of those people. That was an easy number for the Teamsters to identify and say, well, here you have 13 people, 13,000, put these 13,000 people to work full-time. Companies know. Their answer to that is no. That they need these part-time employees. They need that $8 and $9 an hour rate, because they need to compete. They need to compete with Federal Express and RPS. Interestingly enough, if you've been watching the news, and the people that are putting the pressure on the president and putting the pressure on the Labor Department is that, well, where is this competition? Because my next-door neighbor, for instance, is a small business. And he told me the other day that it could cost him his business. And people are calling the hall, calling here, and calling other local unions, small businessmen complaining, well, where's the competition? Because if it costs my next-door neighbors $90-some to ship through other sources, what he would normally pay $16 or $9 for UPS, where's their competition?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is so, I think people should pay attention to that. If the whole Small Business Association has badgered the White House, like we know that they have, lobbied the White House, called this local union, then where's the competition? If it was there, wouldn't they be shifting their business over to the competition?
That's an excellent point. I mean, UPS is a company that is not a struggling little company, right? What's their profitability last year?
$22.5 billion. Well, the profit was $1.5 billion
Right.
on $22.5 billion income, and that's the U.S. This company is a national company. This company is, if we could ever really know what they own, what they don't own, they're national, they're international. They're a real estate holding company. I mean, they're literally into more things than just delivering.
And this is privately held company, is that right?
Privately held.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So they've got a $1.5 billion U.S. profit last year, and they're complaining that they want to stay competitive by keeping 60% of the workers at these $8 and $9 an hour temporary jobs. Now, if I'm a temporary worker, what does that mean? What's my life, my work schedule? What's my wage and benefit package? How does it work if I'm a temporary worker for UPS?
Well, if you're a temporary worker, depending on where you are, and on the New England supplement, part-time employees, they receive the same contribution rate to the pension, but they don't get the same credited hours, of course, and they receive the same health and welfare contributions, but they don't receive the same level of benefit because they have a guarantee of 20 hours into their health and welfare contributions as opposed to 40 hours. But where people, it's a society change that the company fails to recognize. When Dave Murray talks about the fact that, well, when part-time employees were hired originally, they were hired to go to school and then to leave. We never intended these people to become become their career. He complains that part-time employees come to work for UPS just so they can get what benefits there are for them to get, and that they want to work there, that they want to work part-time. Absolutely untrue. These people want to go full-time. There was a study just recently done by Cornell University. Kate Bronfenbrenner, of whom you know, did a study, used this local and other locals, and one of the number one, and the study was why do UPS employees quit UPS? That wasn't the actual name of it, but basically the report was why do they leave, and the report's results were that there's no hope, there's no future, there's nowhere to go, that you can work there forever and you're going to still make $8 or $9 an hour, and there's no full-time opportunities. What happened in society, and we talked about that last night here when we had our meeting, when we had our conference call with Ron Carey, is that society's changed. People do have part-time jobs because both parties in a family may have part-time jobs, may have more than one part-time job. People have to be able to have some mobility. So part-time jobs, for some reason in this country, we've let that become part of reality. This is what we have. A lot of people will complain, well, geez, I have a part-time job, but they also have a full-time job. In order to make the income what they need, they go get a part-time job as well. So we've become a nation of part-time employees. And the Teamsters are saying, well, as far as UPS is concerned, we'd like to change that. We'd like to put a stop to it.
And the proposal is not that all part-timers immediately become full-time, but that UPS would have to convert a certain percentage or a certain number of people who are part-time who want to be full-time, they have to convert them to full-time.
We're asking that they make 10,000 part-time employees full-time employees in the life of the contract. UPS is offering $200 a year on a 5-year agreement. We're saying a 4-year agreement. We did change. We were looking for a 3-year agreement. We did go to 4. The number that they offered of 10,000 is the number that they want to include through attrition. So it's not really like we're going to take 10,000 part-time people and make them full-time. What they're saying is that we will allow part-time employees to go full-time to fill vacancies and openings that develop. Well, we already have that. We already have a bidding procedure where part-time employees can bid to full-time jobs whenever somebody quits, dies, or leaves for whatever reason. Those jobs go up to bid for every 5 of them inside. UPS employees get 4 of them. We already have that. So what we're looking for is for them to take take those 13,000 jobs where part-timers are already working full-time and convert them to full-time jobs. And we're not saying convert them to $20 an hour package driver jobs. We're saying convert them to combination jobs. Somebody may work as a preloader in the morning and then go out and work on the road doing something else, or may work as a preloader along with work in air. But don't use 4-hour individual in a preload in the morning and then send him home or her home, and then bring somebody else in an hour later to go out and to work as a part-timer as well.
Yeah. You know, it seems to me this is something we've talked about a little bit in other shows that we've done here in this Labor Talk Show, but it reminds me of some CEO whose name I've forgotten, but the guy who was quoted back before as saying that our company, whatever such and such Fortune 500 company it is, we don't have jobs anymore. We just have work and people to do it from time to time. As it, you know, in other words, that the view of lots of business increasingly is that workers are sort of a variable cost of doing business, and that people come and they go as the work ebbs and flows. And to some extent, that's the nature of the business. The UPS business, as I understand, is, you know, you've got things that are flown in and transferred and to be shipped out, and you can't change the nature of business. People want quick deliveries and all that sort of thing. But it doesn't necessarily follow that workers then have to be on a yo-yo and have to have their lives completely turned upside down by the needs of the business, right? I mean, isn't really your fight about the fact that people ought to be able to have decent paying jobs as they help a company like UPS be very successful in its market?
Oh, absolutely. If the company makes $1.5 billion profit, the workers made the profit. The profit wouldn't have been there if the people hadn't been out doing the job.
Right.
So we were actually saying we want to share in the pie. We're not making any bones about that. We're not being shy about it at all. As chairman of this New England Supplement, the supplemental company chairman expects that we're going to pay for everything. When we have a proposal for even the most minor things, he leans back to ask, well, what you willing to pay for this? We've already paid for it. I mean, you know, for them to sit there and be present and to be able to function, we did that. The drivers did that. Anybody that looks out the window at 7, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and sees a UPS guy still out there, if they want to go into the buildings at some 4 o'clock in the morning and seeing packages coming at a guy in a primary's position, what they call a primary, at 1,100 pieces per hour, and this person works in a 2 by 2 foot space that by the company methods isn't allowed to move out of that space, and taking packages coming at them at 1,100 to 1,400 pieces an hour and sorting them to 4 different belts, looking at the address, looking at the zip code, knowing does it go on this belt up here, the middle belt, or the bottom belt, or do I turn around and it goes on one of these 3 belts behind me, and then not make an error because there's somebody they mark it with a color, and then that color stays with that employee. We do that. We made that money.
Right.
You know, it's like we did that. I mean, you know, you go back to Bill Haywood. You know, from the miners, when he asked him, he said, "Let me see if I understand this." He says, "You didn't pan for the gold. You didn't prospect for the gold. You didn't find the gold. You didn't smell it, but somehow it's your gold." And so we're saying pretty much the same thing.
That's a real good analysis, an analogy. Let's talk about where you are with the strike right now. We're into the start of the second week. You mentioned there's a lot of pressures on you. You're hearing from small businesses. There's obviously a very organized campaign that's out there to try and put pressure on the White House to somehow intervene and order the strikers back to work. Could you just explain to our viewers for a second what the difference is? Because a lot of people have said, well, gee, you know, Clinton, you know, stepped in and stopped the American Airlines strike before it ever happened. This strike has got a lot more impact on most people out there than the American Airlines strike would have. Why is it that you're in the position you're in?
UPS was attempting for years to come under the Railroad Labor Act, and they thought they were going to be successful, and they were not successful, and this has just been within about the last year. They come under the National Labor Relations Act, and that act has a different standard for when the president can step in, and it would have to be national safety and health, and that's why you're hearing so much now about the fact that hospitals aren't getting drug shipments and the drug distributors are having a problem. Before, you never heard that. That wasn't something that was said, but now it's being said to put pressure on the White House to recognize it as a national safety and health issue because drugs being tied up in warehouses and not being able to move and that's basically how what that's all about. As far as small businesses calling, we received a number of calls from small business people who were angry at the union. One person called the other day, said the Teamster should have been buried with Jimmy Hoffa because his business is being crippled, that it was really that there's nowhere he can ship his packages, he can't get his stuff out of there, and his small business is being crippled. Again, we go back to that, well, where's the competition? He's not using it. We ask him, well, why don't you use the competition? Because they can't afford it.
Right.
So but we are getting a lot of pressure from small business. There's some pressure, I guess, from other sources, political sources are putting pressure on
Sure.
the Teamsters to get them to move. They don't know the proposal. They don't know what's in there. They'd have to sit down and look at it
Right.
to see what it is exactly they're asking the Teamsters to recommend to their members to accept. I would think at this point that if I, as the principal officer of this local union, I'm Vice President Joint Council 10 in Boston, if the Joint Council of this local union were to recommend this proposal to the membership, I would feel very comfortable with somebody being able to take an action against me for violation of fiduciary responsibility. This is not soup yet. This
Yeah.
is just simply not ready to be voted.
Right. Well, you have a real important responsibility, you and the other elected leaders, and I think our viewers need to understand that the process here is that, unlike the company, the union is run as a democratic organization. Your members vote.
Right.
Your members have elected you to represent them and voted in a referendum a couple of months ago, I understand, by a 95% margin to authorize the president and the negotiating team to decide what action should be taken if the company didn't come up with a proposal that you could recommend to your members. Is that the
That's right,
case?
and that's exactly what the vote was. The vote was whether or not to authorize the National Negotiating Committee to take whatever action necessary, including economic action. And it was I think it was 93% of the members that were voting in that voted to do that. And so we go back to the table with that mandate, with that vote. And as far as the democratic process is concerned, I've watched that be demonstrated in our international to an extent that makes me proud, because every institution has a political bent, and ours has as well as any others. And the committee is made up of every aspect of our international union. There are people on the committee that come from organizations that are within the Teamsters Union that are dissident groups, or they would be called dissident groups. There are people on the committee that supported Jimmy Hoffa in the last election against Ron Kerry. There's people who supported Kerry. There's people who were middle road. And that group of people on August 2nd, I believe it was, when we met and whittled down our proposal that we felt was quite confidently as far as we could go, we met again after we met with the mediator. We met again. And we stayed till, I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning, going through the proposals again, taking things out of the proposals that were very important to a lot of people because they're supplemental areas or issues that were going to come back and haunt them in their own areas if they didn't stay in. But people bit the bullet, and we, for instance, went from the company wanted a 5-year agreement, the union wanted a 3-year agreement. We settled on a 4-year agreement as a proposal. Things came out of the final proposal that we felt was sort of like bogging it down and maybe making it more difficult. We whittled down the number of jobs that we were going to look for as full-time jobs. That proposal went back to the company. And from what I can understand, we sent Ron Kerry and Kenny Hall back. The whole committee didn't go back because they were with the federal mediator. And from what I understand, the company gave it no interest whatsoever. Which leads you to wonder what their real goal is.
Yeah, well, that is an interesting point, and I would just say this, that, our union, Unite, and other unions in the AFL-CIO all do feel like we have a lot at stake in your strike. I mean, part of what our labor movement is about, and, you, Bob, personally, and your organization know this very well, but, part of what the labor movement is about is solidarity, and people supporting each other and backing each other up and helping each other when they're in need. And, your strike right now is about your issues, but it's also about an issue that's really important to all of us. What's the future of work in our economy? What's the future of jobs? Do people have careers to look forward to, or do they have just being a variable cost of doing business to look forward to? That's really important for all of us. And so I think, we want to see to it that your organization, you've got to make your decisions about what's an acceptable contract. We don't really it's not our place at all to tell you what to do. It's our place to say, if you guys are taking on this fight, we'll help you in whatever way we can, because, the day comes when we have a fight, when our unions have battles, and when other workers have fights with large companies that we need help from you as well. So, I mean, you know this real well, but it's important that, viewers understand this is not just about the issues at UPS. It's really bigger than that, isn't it?
Well, I think the company is surprised as to the response that they've gotten nationally. They're a well-respected company. People view UPS as a clean-cut, orderly, the tightest ship in the shipping business, literally. I mean, they see it that way. When their members went on strike, they lost track of a couple of things. First of all, what gives the company the image isn't the truck is shiny and brown, because, by the way, somebody washes those, but not that the trucks are shiny and brown, but the drivers themselves, the people that they actually see. See, the public never gets to see inside the buildings at 4 o'clock in the morning. They know the drivers. The drivers are hard-working, clean-cut men and women, and they go out and they do their job, and they establish a relationship with the customers. So what's happened is a lot of the customers are very angry about their person being out, their person taking this position. They see that driver, that they know that person's honest, they know that that person's not going to be kidding them, so they now start to wonder, well, what's going on with UPS, because this driver that we trust and love, he's not lying to us, so there is a problem there. I don't like seeing this person abused. That's a new twist. That the company didn't expect that. They did not expect that. They're upset, and the chief negotiator said so the other day, that the public is seeing their UPS employees on the picket line, because they're seeing another side of the employee. What they're really seeing is these people that they trust, that they respect, that they know are honest, taking a position. When they know these people so well and so personally, they have to start taking that issue on themselves and say, well, maybe there is something to that. And people who are part-time employees, or whose wives or husbands are part-time employees, that are upset with the fact that their wives or husbands can't get full-time work either. And I've seen interviews and talked to people who say, yeah, I don't work for UPS, but the same things happen to me. I talked to a newspaper reporter the other day who said that he works part-time. He works part-time in a job that he's worked part-time in for over 40 hours a week for over 8 years. And somebody that worked at Union Mutual told me that they fill a position over there from time to time that has been filled steadily for over 8 years. And they work full-time, but it's in a part-time position. So the issue has caught on to people. People recognize it as a genuine issue, even though there's a number of other issues.
Right. I think there are certainly lots of issues. It's a long contract, very complicated, but this really is the fundamental thing that the strike is about from the union's point of view, and something I think people can relate to. I wanted to ask you also, Bob, we were talking before off camera about the concept of sacrifice, because as I said, this is the largest strike in 25 years for an awful lot of people. It's the first exposure they've had to something like this, and one of the questions people ask is, why are these workers, sacrificing what they are? Because it's tough. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a very difficult thing for people to go out on strike. They make economic sacrifices. Their family makes sacrifices to do it, and there's always a question about, well, will they ever get back what they sacrificed? It's never, you oftentimes hear people say, oh, strike is just, it's never worth it. You never make what you lost in the strike. And, whether that's true for an individual, you were talking a little earlier about what sacrifices people have made before have led to in terms of the standards of living that folks have now. I wonder if you could sort of share that with us.
People look at the UPS, they don't look at the contract, but people look at the UPS employee, and they know that the driver they see out there has a good job, has a good income, but that's they don't see the underbelly of it. So, but they know that. But what they don't know is, how did that get there? We've had 3 strikes in Maine, for instance, in New England. One of them lasted 13 weeks. I was in all of those strikes. So we knew that we weren't going to get back some of the things that we were out there for, but we knew also that those were important issues. We wanted to see the company grow. We wanted to see the union grow. We wanted to see the strength of it grow. So what we did was we gave something, and it may sound corny, but people really do feel they're given something. We had a meeting in here last night, and this room was full. That same meeting took place in Maine, in Bangor, and in our office in Presque Isle, and all over the country. And what I told the people last night, and I meant it, and somebody might think it sounded corny, is that this whole issue, and if you want to call it a trade union movement, or if you want to call it a trade unionism, it isn't ours to keep. When I came into UPS, there was no one here. We had a local union that was a freight local. It was headed up by Dave Hastings and Al Page, who they started it. They were the charter. They started the Charter Truck Drivers Association, which eventually affiliated with the Teamsters. What they did was when they reached at a point, either age or capability or whatever, they passed it on. And they passed what they had done and all the work they had done to Lou Boutin and the people that were here after that. And it wasn't theirs to keep. It wasn't Dave Hastings to keep and to abuse and to damage or to dysfunction. And when he passed it to Boutin, it was his responsibility to add his part to it. I view it like you build a building. First thing you have to do is you dig a foundation. Well, Dave Hastings dug the foundation. Lou Boutin came along a few years later. He put in the foundation. He framed the building. I come along later. I put a roof on the building. I bring in what talent I have, things that I know, because it's my job to keep passing it on. I view it like it's an egg. It's very fragile. It's something that I don't own. And I told the members this, and they agreed last night. It's not ours to keep. It's ours to pass along. And you don't pass it along weaker. You pass it along stronger, so that you can sit back and look at it. When the retirees meet in here on the last Thursday of every month, they're real proud of what they did. They're real proud that the pension is there because they started the pension. They don't enjoy the pension anywhere near what we do because they have to go best on the contributions based on their time. But it is something that we do for others. I've been on strike for many weeks, and I tell people that have called me, I had a couple people call me, that one, like as I told you earlier, one woman had a car to pay for and a camp and a refrigerator, and she was telling me these things, and I reminded her the only reason she had all those things is because I struck for, and this individual probably before she was born, you know, that we did that, and now she's going to pay the price to help move something along, maybe for their own children for that matter, because there was a proposal in there that UPS would hire relatives. Right now, they won't hire relatives of the employees.
Well, that's really a very important point that you make. That workers are making sacrifices. And they're engaged in a very big fight right now. They're making sacrifices. It's hard, and it's a crucial issue, and it's crucial for people who haven't yet. Many of whom have probably not yet in the workforce. What we have is, the result of people who've gone before us. Building a labor movement, required sacrifice from people before, it requires sacrifice from people today, and that's, the position that you and your members are in right now.
Well, we do it for everybody. You take Federal Express and RPS, and the rates of pay that Federal Express makes and RPS makes, and overnight, we're ready to win at overnight. The Teamsters nationally will eventually have overnight trucking company. But the reason that those people are paid what they're paid, and you know this, Mike, as well as anybody, is because they keep the wolf away from the door. They don't want the Teamsters Union and Federal Express, so when we get it, when the Teamsters get increases for our people, they give their people increases. Right. When our benefits go up, they give increases in their benefits. So everybody out there shares in what we do, whether it's Unite or whether it's a Teamsters Union, everyone shares in what we do. We had a meeting in here one time when we were attempting to organize an organization, and he'd been there maybe 4 or 5 times, and I saw a gentleman in the back moving back and forth, and I kind of thought he was a ringer, and I thought he was going to start hollering down on the union about what a bad organization it is. And finally, at a point, he says, because there was some dispute in the room about whether they should go with the Teamsters or not, and he says, well, he says, I'm out of here. He says, I got one thing to say. He says, I've never paid the union 1 penny's dues in my life. He says, but I got to tell you, he says, I owe every raise I've gotten, I owe every benefit increase I've got to the Teamsters, because every 3 years when we have trouble with our association trying to negotiate a contract, we come over and knock on the Teamsters door, threaten our employer that we're going to join the Teamsters, and the first thing to do, all of a sudden, the things that we can't get done are done. Repairs are made, safety issues are taken care of, we get the increases, we get the health increases. And he left the building saying, I don't have anything over there that I haven't got from the Teamsters, and I never had to pay you a penny's dues. And this, you know this, you see this all the time.
Yeah, well, that's, I think that's really why this strike has implications far beyond the 180,000 striking Teamsters. This has got implications for, lots of people in this economy, and the stakes are very high. I know this is a tough time for you guys. I just want you to know that, certainly our union, the other unions of the AFL-CIO are ready to help in whatever ways we can. We want to help you get your message out to people. And this is, for viewers who've just tuned in, I should just mention this is Cavanaugh's Corner, our labor talk show, and I'm with Bob Piccone, the president of Local 340, the Teamsters Union here in Maine. and Bob and his members are engaged right now in a really important and difficult strike at UPS. We're going to go out and talk to some of the guys over on the picket line here. We'll go over to the UPS, and talk to some of the workers out on the line, and hear their perspective on it. But I just wanted to thank you very much for taking this time.
I'm glad that you asked, and we had the opportunity to tell what we're really doing here. There's, like I said, there's a number of other issues that are hidden in that agreement. We like to call them the devils in the details. The companies wants to tell their story through summaries, and we tell our members, don't buy an insurance policy or a labor agreement with summaries. Look at the whole agreement, and that's what I'm doing today, to put it together for them to see exactly what's in there. And we are very pleased to see that this issue has become a national issue now, and news reporters are talking about it, and talk shows are talking about the issue of part-time employees. So if nothing else, we've sure raised that to a national dialogue.
Oh yeah, it's definitely on the radar screen, as they say. Bob, just in closing, I just wonder if there's anything that you would suggest that people who are viewing the show here in Maine, anything that they could do to help, to show support, if they have questions. What would you like our viewers to do?
What they could do is that the people are being affected by it, and I understand people are calling the White House, and I understand people are calling the FMCS, and I understand those types of things are helpful, because that's putting pressure where it belongs. It's putting calling UPS, it's putting pressure on them to be reasonable about what they're doing, so that this thing can get over with and we can get back to the business as usual. They do not need to have 1.5 billion profit. That's nice, but we want them to share in it, and we also want them to leave our pension alone, leave it where it belongs. People could help by just supporting the UPS picketers and strikers. Maybe go by the picket line. If you're a customer of UPS and you know this driver's been to your place at 8 o'clock at night on Christmas, been there to make sure that you had everything that you had, that person needs your support. Maybe stop by, say hello. You know who they are. You know who your drivers are. They'd feel good about that.
Okay, well that's great, and we'll do that. We're going to take our camera crew, move our whole operation out on the picket line, and see some of those drivers and warehouse workers right now. Bob, thanks for joining us on this show.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Mike.
Okay, appreciate it. And let's move our crew on to UPS in South Portland. Stay tuned. We on? Yep. Hi, Mike Cavanaugh. I'm back out here at the UPS depot here in South Portland. I'm here with Steve Malia and Brian Monahan, of course.
Good Irishman.
Striking members of the Teamsters, Local 340, who are, you guys are UPS workers, right?
Yes.
Steve, this is, let me just ask you, you've been with UPS for some number of years. What's this all about in your opinion? Why are you guys out here?
Well, we're on here for, in my opinion, we're on here for the people that are coming up behind us. We're on here for, like you just said, I started in '69. You know, this is probably going to be my last contract, I hope. I hope I can retire in the next couple of years, but, so I think we're down here for the people that are coming behind. You know, back years ago, we used to call them the unborn. Guys coming up behind us, and I think a lot of guys have that impression. We had a rally last night, and a lot of guys, strong support, no weakening at all, strong support, and I think that whole issue of guys coming up behind us, not only our families, but people coming up behind us, their families, our children, grandchildren, so on and so forth. You know, and the support that we've gotten from the people over here. You know, like I was just saying that we've had people stop, just giving us pizzas, donating coffee, donuts, just about anything you can imagine. Yeah. Support, money. We've had people come by, who's giving us $5, $10, right, you know, and say, hey, buy what you need, and they've all said the same thing. This part-time issue has gotten way out of hand. We want good full-time jobs, and that's what the whole thing's all about, is good full-time jobs.
All right.
That pay well, benefits too. You know,
yeah. Well, that's what certainly, President Kerry talks about when you hear Ron Kerry on the news. We just had a chance to talk with Bob Piccone over here at the office, and those are the issues that guys are talking about. We talk about part-timers and right, what the issues are for part-time workers. Right. And Brian, you're one of those part-time workers everybody's talking about, right? Exactly. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you've been here at UPS, and what's the part-time issue all about in your opinion?
Well, I've been here since November '92, so
Okay.
this is going to be my 5th year. This is my 5th year.
Okay, and you're still part-time?
Yes, I am.
And why is, how did that come to be?
How did it come to be? Well, I have another couple other part-time jobs, so for me, it fits in with my schedule. If they offer me more work in the morning, I would take it gladly.
Right.
You know, air driving, etc.
So you're one of those guys who's got 2 or 3 jobs, maybe one full-time
paying job, so I gladly take more hours from UPS, but
Right.
it's just not there for whatever reason.
Right. And so would you say you're working multiple jobs more out of need than desire?
Well, it's more like a balance thing. Like, I went to college, so I have another job that's a counseling job. I work with adolescents, and you know, I like doing that. But I also like working, and I get a workout from UPS, and gives me peace of mind that way. Balance, physical with mental.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. How many of your guys out here are part-time workers here in South Portland? Do you know?
On the preload shift, what
I'd say
is?
there's more than half the employees are probably, in this building alone, I'd say it's
How many are there?
I'd say it's 60-40, 60% part-time, 60% full-time. I'd say maybe 60, 70 full-timers, 75, and probably 65, 70 part-timers. Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues. A lot of the part-timers come in here, and you know, like Brian says, if UPS gave them more hours, they'd gladly take them, you know. But they kind of seem to squeeze them in there and leave them just short of full-time.
Right.
A lot of guys come in here and they work, like Brian says, driving air in the morning, and they'll get 35, 36 hours in here.
Right.
But they'll keep them just short of that full-time.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Plateau.
If you're working 35 or 36 hours, or you know, close to full-time hours, but they designate you as a part-time worker, what's the difference? What does that mean in terms of your pay and benefits that's different than if you were a full-time worker?
Well, I think I get pretty good benefits now. You know, I'm hoping to see them improve, but for me, I work 25 hours a week, so that's not really a full-time for me. I'm not even near full-time.
Yeah, yeah. And how's the company making out different in terms of I'm not that familiar with their pay system, but
Pay scale is full-timers, part-timers make about half what full-timers make. And it's pretty difficult to move, like I say, it's pretty difficult for a part-timer to move up in this situation, because what UPS does is they just add more part-timers.
Yeah.
You know, and so for the part-timers that want to move up in the full-time, it's almost like it's a dead-end thing, because they can't, because they just, well, we'll just add 2 more part-timers. Instead of adding a full-time job and making one of those part-timers full-time and doubling their pay is essentially what they do is double their pay. No, we don't want to do that. We'll just keep everybody part-time. And it makes it scary for the full-timers too, because here a lot of full-timers have been at the same level. A lot of guys over here have been there 10 years. They haven't been able to go up in seniority because they haven't hired anybody, pushed them up. They could push them up, you know. And that's always been, you know, seniority has always been one of the basic rights of any union. And if you don't go up in seniority, it's pretty, after 10 years, that's pretty depressing.
Yeah.
It's pretty depressing, you know, and that's why, you know, UPS wants to keep the full-time jobs to a minimum. Right. So.
Well, what are you guys hearing from, you know, a lot of people go by here, you know, this is sort of a busy place. What have you been hearing from other people in the community about your strike? What are you know, either here on the...
I'm hearing a lot of positive things. I'm really surprised that it's taken off like it has. It's really, this whole part-time, full-time issue is, I think it's struck a nerve with a lot of people across the country that, you know, full-time, I mean, part-time is great, but listen, there's a lot of people out there that you know, part-time is just a part-time wage is half a job. We don't need half a job. We need a full-time job with good wages, you know, and that's what America needs, I think. And a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon, like I said, people coming by here donating stuff, pizzas, food, coffee, donuts. They all say the same thing. Hang in there, boys. We're with you. You know, keep up the fight. You know, that's what America needs. These corporations are just going overboard. They're swinging everything the other way. Let's hang in there and keep it up.
All right, well, there's some of our supporters driving by right now, guys. Just, you know, people just honking the horn to show some support. That means a lot to you guys out here, I imagine, right? It's a hot day standing out here. How long you been out here today, Brian?
I'm just getting here. I come for the 12 to 4 shift.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm starting. I'm good and fresh.
Okay. Part-time workers get part-time picket duty too.
They should, yeah.
I've stayed for longer. You know,
It's about 6 o'clock.
I've come like twice a day
now, so.
for 2 parts and broken it up.
All right.
Good
So-
support here.
Yeah, well, that sounds like it.
Yeah, the South Portland police have been great, by the way. They've been really super. They've not hassled us a bit. They've been really good.
Yeah. The South Portland PD's been pretty good to us when we've been out at Macy's. You know, we've had a few little demonstrations out here at the mall, and I'd say our brothers in the South
they're
Portland
very
PD
good.
have been pretty supportive.
Very supportive.
Do you think a lot of people, even though they're not union people, understand and what this issue is about and feel like this is maybe in some way their battle as well that you're fighting?
I think it has. I think it's, you know, it crosses that whole line of union, non-union thing. I think people have. I think that whole thing, this pendulum has swung the other way, where corporations have gotten away with just about whatever they've wanted to for in the 80s and 90s. Now it's swinging the other way. Hopefully it's swinging the other way towards where people can stand up and fight for what they believe is right. And that's, to us, it's a decent contract. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for the moon. We're asking for a decent contract. And it's just a shame that the companies put us out here, put us in the middle, put the customers in the middle, and put pretty much the entire public in the middle. All these companies really depend on UPS a lot. You know, it surprised me. I never realized that UPS handled 80% of the ground volume in the country. That surprised even me, and I've been here since 1969, so I didn't even realize that. So,
yeah, does it strike you as a little odd that UPS apparently says they can't afford to provide the kind of security that you want for some of your part-timers, and they, you know, they really can't meet the need because they say they've got to stay competitive, yet it doesn't sound like they have much competition.
yes, I mean that argument could come back to haunt them, I think. But it's like, yeah, and then they say they can't afford a good contract, but they'll lose. I hear they're losing something in the area of $50 million a day in lost revenue. I mean, come on, it doesn't sound like it's the whole argument doesn't seem to.
We got some of the guys here from the South Portland Fire Rescue. I think their local union. Let's go on over and see what's going on here.
Okay.
This is we got the South Portland Police, the South Portland Fire Department. Let's see if we can
Right in the middle here.
find out what's going on here. Hey there. You guys out here to support the strikers?
Depends who you are.
I'm Mike Cavanaugh. This is Labor Talk Show. We're a union talk show.
Yes, I'm president of Local 1476, professional firefighters.
All right,
I'll
Kevin.
support these guys.
All right, great to see you. Yeah, we're just out here talking with some of the strikers about why do you think this is an important issue for all of labor?
It's important, the part-time issue. Management's gotten away with trying to get more part-timers. We're going through it, and it's important to stick together and show our support for the other union fellows around.
You're here to hear first, folks. Unscripted, you weren't scheduled to come by here, were you, at all,
We're out
Kevin?
here for lunch, and we've been meaning to get down to voice our support for these guys, so hope they make out all right.
All right. Well, that's appreciate it very much. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's. I don't know if Captain Fahey here is somebody we can interview. Hey, you guys mind if we just interrupt you for a second? Are you captain or sergeant or?
Patrolman.
Patrolman Fahey. I'm Mike Cavanaugh. You with the local union here as well?
No, our sergeants and lieutenants are parts of Local 340. They're the Teamsters. We're with a different organization, which is local, Maine Association of
I
Police.
see. Okay, but just in terms of your perspective on this thing, we're a labor talk show here on public access television.
Sure.
What do you think? You think this is an important strike for all of us who work for a living?
Being a part of organized labor, I think any labor action that's done on a group basis is important for the workers and for management as well.
Yeah.
When they set up the picket line, I had concerns about coming across to, follow my orders, representing our union. So I came down and met with Mr. Carson and asked him his train of thought. Just wanted to show some respect and support for the guys, because most of these guys we know
Sure.
from work. They deliver to us, and we become friends with them.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's the way it works. This is sort of a community strike, really. It's everybody, huh?
We were just listening to the news, and they're talking about it's basically crippled the country because you've got doctors that are turning away students vaccines that need them for kindergarten starting in the fall because they just don't have them because the deliveries aren't getting through. So something's going to happen soon, and I hope it happens. It benefits both sides.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can just grab one. Excuse me. You're one of the Teamsters out here. I'm Mike Cavanaugh.
Morel Crawford.
Ralph?
Morel.
Nice to see you, Morel. This is Cavanaugh's Corner, labor talk show here in southern Maine on public access television. We just want to know, you're one of the UPS workers and Teamster member, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
Tell me a little bit how long you've been working here for UPS and what's your
I've been
situation?
working probably about going on, well, next year will be 20 years I've been here.
20 years,
And I'm
okay.
a full-time driver.
Uh-huh.
And as you know, we're on strike for the part-timers, trying to get more full-time jobs and better job security. And also for our pension. We let Teamsters keep the pension instead of giving it to the company.
Right.
So
Company wants control over your money. They want control over.
they want control of everything.
Yeah.
And we know how UPS works and how they feel about us, and we don't like that. We don't like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, our union is, one of many that's, looking at what you guys are doing is a pretty important thing for all of us, really. Do you feel like you're carrying sort of a big burden for a lot of people out here?
Yes, I do. I think it's actually for all the part-timers across America, and for jobs in the future too. If we make this stand and we will win it, it'll be better for all part-timers across the country. So the way the job situation is now in this country, and big companies treat their employees, it's a shame, because we do most of the work for this company, and we make this company grow and do all the best we can for it. But this company doesn't seem to look at it that way.
Let me ask you, do you have any message you'd want to share with all the people who are watching this show from around the state of Maine? People who don't work for UPS, who aren't union people, who are interested in this thing. What would be your message, everybody?
Well, I hope they understand the issues. That's the big thing. I hope they don't give us a bad eye or think that we're doing the wrong thing, but we're doing it for them and also for us. But we feel that we're very strong on this certain issue right here, and we will win it in the end.
All right. Well, good. Congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mauro. Okay. I think we're probably pretty much running out of time on our show here. I just wanted to, for our viewers who've tuned in late, just let you know we're on location here in South Portland at the United Parcel Strike. Members of Teamsters Local 340 in the background behind me. We've had a chance to talk with some of the other union people from the local firefighters here. A lot of people going by this area who are honking their horns, showing some support for the strikers out here, the people who are really putting it on the line, making a big sacrifice, and fighting over this issue of part-time work. This is August 11th. Who knows where this strike's going to go by the time you see this show, but we hope this has been helpful in getting the real rank-and-file workers' point of view out across to the rest of the people in the state of Maine. So, thanks again for tuning in. This is Cavanaugh's Corner, the Labor Talk Show, and we'll be back with hopefully a successful conclusion of the Teamster strike at UPS. Please join us. Thanks. Okay. Well, Steve, thanks a lot. Back to the Unite office here in Biddeford. I'm Mike Cavanaugh. This is Friday, August 15th. We're now 2 weeks into the strike of 185,000 Teamster members at United Parcel Service. Throughout the show, we've been interviewing a number of the Teamsters, talking about the issues involved in this strike. We don't know what the status is as we sit right now. The negotiators for UPS and the Teamsters are meeting again in Washington. I believe the United Parcel Service may have been surprised about the fact that the Teamsters Union is held together quite strongly for now 2 weeks. And very importantly, earlier this week, the AFL-CIO President John Sweeney announced that the AFL-CIO unions would contribute and provide loan monies to assist the Teamsters Union and assist those strikers who are out there right now fighting an important battle about part-time employment in the United States. Thought it would be interesting to share with you a little bit the research project that was just completed in June of this year by Cornell University, a research project on worker turnover and part-time employment at United Parcel Service. This study, which was commissioned by the Teamsters Union, involved the survey of former part-time and full-time employees of United Parcel Service, both in the across the state of Maine and the state of Washington. And the researchers from Cornell found some very interesting information. This was documented, as I said, in June of '97, 2 or 3 months now before the strike. And I found it to be quite interesting that their research indicates that some 60% or more of the UPS workforce is part-time. Some 175,000 employees, part-time workers. And this has increased dramatically over the past few years. In 1991, it was only 50% of their employment, only 50%, and now it's up over 60%. Clearly the trend on the part of UPS has been to increase the number of part-time employees. But also quite interesting to find here that the turnover rate has been extraordinary, 150%. That's 150% turnover among part-time employees at United Parcel Service. And this, of course, is a study that has interviewed and documented some 400 of these former UPS employees to find out the circumstances, why it was they left, what were the conditions on the job, what were their feelings about it. And certainly we can't go through the entire study here, but some of the things that I think were most interesting to me, and I think perhaps to my viewers, would be that there are, although they're classified as part-time, a fairly high proportion, 69% of the part-time employees report that their part-time work was over 20, from between 20 and 39 hours per week. And in fact, 9% of the part-time employees average more than 40 hours a week. Now, I would consider that to be full-time and then some, but by UPS classifying these workers as part-time, they not only pay them less in the way of fringe benefits, but they pay them something like $7 an hour less on their hourly wage rate. I think those are the reasons why people out across Maine and frankly across the United States are relating to this strike, sympathetically relating to the strike and to the plight of the strikers. I think lots of people out there feel that the trend towards part-time employment, contingent employment, flexible employment is something that's very troubling to lots of people who believe that you would have a career, you'd have a job, you'd have an ability to earn a living as a regular employee. So it'd be very interesting to see how this strike is settled. I think it's quite clear that the Teamsters Union is out there fighting a battle about many issues, but clearly this conversion of part-time jobs to full-time is high among the issues on the agenda. So we'll stay with this strike. We'll see if we can talk to people here in the Biddeford area as to their opinions about it. Certainly many people feel impacted, and many people are impacted. Some people's lives are inconvenienced. Some people's lives are inconvenienced very greatly because of this battle. But it is I would say that the strikers are the persons whose lives and their families are the ones whose lives are really on the line. And it's important for all of us in the labor movement that this strike be held together, that the union members make their decisions themselves about how to solve this strike. And we look forward to an important turning point here in the battle between the Teamsters and UPS. Here in Maine, we want to do what we can to support the strikers and their families while they're on the picket line fighting an important fight for all of us. This is not a fight about more money. This isn't a fight for privilege. This is a fight for jobs, for good, full-time jobs with benefits. And certainly we believe in Unite that this is a battle that's being waged by the Teamsters, but really for all of labor and all of the working people in our society. But while they're on strike, people need help. They've got a very small strike fund. We can help them out with donations of groceries, assistance in whatever way the strikers need it. So here in Portland, we set up the other evening at the Central Labor Council meeting a strike assistance fund. If you would like to contribute $5, $10, anything you can to help these strikers and their families while the strike goes on, please send contributions to the Portland Central Labor Council Strike Assistance Fund. You can make those checks payable to the Strike Assistance Fund. Send them here to us at Unite at 41 Franklin Street in Biddeford, and we'll pass them along to the Strike Assistance Fund and see to it that help gets to the strikers and their families at this time when they really need it. We believe that solidarity means people coming together to support each other, particularly when chips are down. Times are tough right now for those striking UPS workers, and we certainly would like to help them, and believe a lot of other people in Maine would like to help them as well. So that concludes this portion of our show. This is, as I said, the end of week 2 of the Teamster strike at UPS. We hope the strike is settled soon, maybe by the time you see this film. But if not, please stop by a picket line. Tell those guys and those women out there that you're with them, that you respect what they're doing to stand up for good jobs for all of us. And stop by, but don't cross any picket lines. Thanks very much for watching. Tune in again next week for another edition of Cavanaugh's Corner. About the Teamster strike at United Parcel Service? You know about the strike? What do you think about them out there on strike about this part-time employment?
I think that's good.
Yeah?
I think if they're working 132 hours, they should get paid for full-time employments and have benefits like full-time employees do.
That's important. Do you think that they've touched a nerve out here? Do you think a lot of people feel like this economy is turning into part-time
If it works for them, hopefully it'll work for a lot more firms that are doing that.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.